Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start by giving our praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rekha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. It's your brother Quinn Walter of the Great Millstone Charlotte Camp. I'm coming with a quick lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And this afternoon, I just want to touch on this quote. I was watching the movie Troy, right? And it's a good movie to watch, to see how the ancient, warriors moved and things of that nature. But there was a quote in the movie that read, "This war will never be forgotten, neither the heroes who fight in it, man." And this is what, ultimately the elect are, man, right? And more chiefly the 144,000, that governing body, right? These are the men, right, as we'll read here in the second Esdras, who stood so stiffly, man, right? Right, these are the men who, the Lord put the spirit on to continue to fight this fight, right? To win this battle, right? As well as the rest of the elect, right, overcoming this world, right? But those 144,000 being those top warriors, man, right? And that's why I wanted to get this word real quick. For heroes or hero, and it says a man. This is the Edom Online Dictionary. It says a man of superhuman strength or physical courage. That was the point I wanted to get. Salakia. It says this is of uncertain origin, according to old theory, perhaps originally defender, protector, to protect, right? And that's what the elect are, man, right? The men of the Lord are the ones who, the spirit of the Lord is being put on to protect the world, man, right? Because we're coming into the final clash between righteous and wickedness, man, right? And the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is leading us into the battle, right? Yahweh Shai being that general, This is the English meaning man who exhibits great bravery, right? This is who the elect are, man, right? Those who exhibit great bravery, right? Standing in front, of this insurmountable force, right? From the eyes of the world, this seems like a lost cause, right? But what we're standing for, ultimately, again, right, will always be remembered, right? And those men, Lord willing, will be a part of that number, will always be remembered, What else? I think that was the point on that, because that physical courage, as we read in that first definition, it starts with that spiritual courage, man, right? Because that word courage goes into valor, And what did the Lord tell, I think it was Gideon. Let me get that real quick. In Judges. Judges chapter 6 and verse 12. It reads, "And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him and said unto him, The Lord is with thee, thou mighty man of valor." Right? So when you have that courage, you have that valor, understanding that the Lord is with you, man. Right? And that's the spirit that's being cultivated in the elect as we speak, man. Right? We go through this spirit. We're in the spiritual war as we speak, but it's gonna come to a physical war, man. Right? But the war in its totality, right, overcoming all these obstacles, is always going to be remembered. And the men who overcame these things and stood so stiffly, as well, are going to be remembered. All right. So this is Sirach chapter, or it's like it, Second Esdras chapter 2 and verse 44. So I asked the angel and said, "Sir, what are these?" And he answered, so like I might start up. We'll start in 44, Slakia. So I asked the angel and said, Sir, what are these? He answered and said unto me, These be they that have put off the mortal clothing, and put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of the Most High. Now are they crowned and receive palms. Then said I, right, and that's confessing the name, the testimony, right, the prophecies, right, continuing in that legacy, right, the work that our forefathers, started, right, that our elders and apostles started. We coming into the, other men's labors, right, and continuing into the end, right. It says, and have confessed the name of the Most High. Now are they crowned and receive palms, right? So you want to receive that crown, right, at the end of this battle, right? We're about to see a great, coronation, take place. Then said I unto the angel, What young person is it that crowneth them and giveth them palms in their hands? So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of the Most High, whom they have confessed in the world, the Yahushai. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord. Right? So why would we receive that, right? Right? Why is Ezra seeing this and commending these men, right? Because he knew the severity of the times that we're in, right? That the world was in its worst case, that we had to overcome, right? The greatest evil that the earth had ever seen, right? And we stood stiffly, Lord willing, we be a part of that number, man, right? We fought that battle and won. That's why, let me get this in Jeremiah. 23. Jeremiah 23. And verse 7. It reads, Therefore, behold, the day is come, saith the Lord, that they shall no more say, The Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. Right? So this remembrance, right, the men who are a part of this, right, are going to be remembered as well, man. Right? They're going to be remembered alongside Yahushai, right? That's why you get in Romans 8. We want to be those joint heirs, man, right? Now let's go to, because he's that ultimate hero, he's going to come and fight for us, right? And we're fighting in the spirit as well, man, right? That's why I had that Ephesians, pulled up, because we're in the midst of a spiritual war that's gonna, make its way into the physical, right? Soon come, and that's what we're being prepared, to endure. Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places, right? And you read that in the, I believe it's the Good News Translation. It talks about the governing bodies, right, pretty much of darkness in this earth, man, right? The governors, Esau's, so-called elite, man, right? The left-hand elite, you could call them, right? Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of the Most High, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand, right? And that starts with the men. Right? That starts with those heroes, right? Starting with Yahushai, right? In the order, on down, Ooh, so like it. That was it on that. Right? So just going back to that quote, right? So going back to that quote, man, the war will never be forgotten, neither the heroes who fight in it, man. Right? So we're being prepared right, to fight in this war. You know, we're being built up as a. Let's go to. I think it's in Timothy. Right, because this is the greatest war that the earth has ever seen, man. And the greatest war the earth has ever seen is going to require the greatest warriors as well, man. You know, to or Second Timothy to Salakia. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 3. We'll read this in the NLT. It reads, "Endure suffering along with me as a good soldier of Hamashiach Yahushai." Right, so we're soldiers of Yahushai, man. Right, and we're being led into battle. Right, we're in basic training, so to speak. Right, but we still have still have fights that we have to overcome, man. Right, but we're gonna have that ultimate test. As Jacob's trouble, ensues, as the hour of temptation comes, right, that mark of the beast, and all the things that are happening, right, in between. We're gonna be continually tried, right, as soldiers, right, to see if our training, holds up. Going back to that Ephesians, man, we read through, right, it talks about putting on the armor, fully, man, right, because those fiery darts are a constant attack, and this is a part of that war, right? Verse 4, soldiers don't get tied up in the affairs of civilian life, for then they cannot please the officer who enlisted them, right? So we're seeking to please, the officer who chose us to, come to this battle, man, right? Going back to 2nd Esdras, right? Let's go to chapter 7. Ezra 7 and 57. It reads, "Then answered me and said, This is the condition of the battle which man that is born upon the earth shall fight." Right? It says that if he be overcome, he shall suffer as thou hast said. But if he get the victory, he shall receive the thing that I say. Right? And we're being prepared for victory, man. Right? All the things that we face on a day-to-day, right? The trials and tribulations, right? The test of your faith and your spirit, right? All that you walk through is testing you and preparing you for this time, right? So right? We're being tried and tested for the victory, man, right? Because the war is at hand, right? Again, we're in that spiritual war. But Esau is going to come in as that flood, right? Which is going to be the ultimate trial of our faith, man. The ultimate trial of our test. Or, of our strength, of our resolve, right? Going back to being those heroes, man. That courage, your valor, right? Let me go back to that, right? Because the quote, again, was, actually, let me pull it back up. My phone here, Salakia. It says this war will never be forgotten, neither the heroes who fight in it. So we don't want to, we want to be a part of that victory, man. Right? A part of those men whose names are written in the book of life. But it says here, hero in the online dictionary, a man of superhuman strength or physical courage, right? Because that superhuman strength, brothers go into spiritual power, right? That's going to be required for this war that we're about to, see take place, man. But that's an example of extreme faith, right? In order to receive that power, right, you have to, have the power now, man, right? This wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is a spiritual power, man. The faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, right? That unwavering steadfastness is spiritual power, right? That physical courage, right, is more chiefly spiritual courage, man. Right? No, I want to get this word courage. It says courage, hence spirit, temperament, state, or frame of mind. Where we at? There we go. It says meaning valor, quality of mind which enables one to meet danger and trouble without fear, right? Because we don't fear what this devil can do, man, right? Even though we know, as it reads in Revelation 12 and 17, right? Because we're the ones who, are in his crosshairs chiefly, man. Lord willing, we be a part of that number, right? The elect are who he's targeting, right? Those who have this testimony, Revelation 12 and 17. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, right? So he's really about to turn things up, man, right? As we see the plagues and pestilences, being orchestrated, right? As we see this AI idol, right? The image of the beast speaking, right? The mark of the beast being prepared to be, constituted, right? All these things being placed as stumbling blocks, right? The spirits being ramped up, right, in your day-to-day life, right? Trying your faith and testing your patience, right? All these are the dragon, making war with the remnant, right? Which keep the commandments of the Most High and have the testimony of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, man, right? And that testimony is what? Prophecy, right? Let's get that, right? Because, like the scriptures say, you can know the names, but the worst thing you want to hear is, I have not known you, man, right? Let's see. And that's because a lot of these people aren't speaking of prophecy, man. Because the testimony of Yahweh Shai, as it reads here, Revelation 19 and 10, and I fell at his feet to worship him, and he said unto me, see thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahweh Shai, right? So he's coming after that testimony. And that testimony is what? Worship the Most High. For the testimony of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy. So those who are prophesying, right, are in the crosshairs of this devil, man. Right? Those who are prophesying, right, are in the heat, the midst of this war, right? The spiritual war has already commenced, but the physical war, right, is ramping up, and those who fight and enduring to the end, as the scriptures say, the same shall be saved, right? And those names will not be forgotten, right? Starting with Yahweh Shai, King David, the 12, the 144,000, right, and the men on down, right? All those names, all those men, right, will have their legacy, cemented, right, for enduring. Again, going back to that Second Esdras, chapter 2, right? And that's why the scriptures tell us the things written before were written for our learning, roughly paraphrasing, because the legacies of our forefathers are remembered, right, for their endurance, man, right, for the fights that they overcame. So how much more the greatest fight that the world has ever seen, man, right? Second Esdras 2 and verse 47. So he answered and said unto me, it is the Son of the Most High, Yahweh Shai, whom they have confessed in the world. Going back to that, Revelation 12 and 17, Revelation 19, and what was it, 10? Yep. It says, so he answered and said unto me, it is the Son of the Most High, Yahweh Shai, whom they have confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord, man. the name, the reputation, the legacy, right? The works, you know. I love to bring this scripture out here, right? Because, this is what we ask of the Lord, right? Because, again, we're at war, right? Sirach 36 in verse 1, have mercy upon us, O Lord, power of all, and behold us, right? And as the scriptures tell you, judgment was given unto the Son, right? So we're asking for mercy from Yahweh Shai, man, right? And for him to behold us, to allow us, right, into his presence, man. Allow us into that, the secret chambers, right? It says, and send thy fear upon all the nations that seek not after thee. Lift up thy hand against the strange nations and let them see thy power. Going back to those heroes, right? Right, that superhuman, right? That's that spiritual power, and that's starting with the miracles, right? That the Lord is gonna allow in the earth. Lift up thy hand against the strange nations, and let them see thy power, as thou was sanctified in us before them, right? So he's being sanctified in us. Let's see what that word sanctified. Actually, I'll just look it up here. It's like it. Sanctify, to consecrate or set apart, to render holy or legitimate by religious sanction, to make holy, pretty much, right? So like it says, as thou art sanctified or made holy in us before them, right? So in their presence, as the scriptures talk about, in the presence of our enemies, that table was set, right? Let's get that. In Psalms. The feast. I'll come back to it. We'll finish that out. As thou was sanctified in us before them, so be thou magnified among them before us. And that magnification is going to start with, the work that he's doing on his men, man, right? He's going to allow them, right, to what's the word? Well, starting with the spirit of prophecy, us chanting down Babylon the Great, right, is magnifying Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai in the midst of our enemies, man, right? And then, right, the the prophecies come into place, right, come into pass, right, as the men of the Lord have said it through his spirit, right, is magnifying the Lord, even more, right? And then, as the things start to, the destruction commences, right, the spirit of the Lord, Yahweh Shai, right, the angels are going to make their presence known, right? All these things are magnifying Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai in the midst of our enemies, right? But I got that precept here. Psalm 23. In verse 5, it says, Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Right? So this table is being prepared, right, in the midst of our enemies, preparing for this war, man. Right? And they're watching it and they don't understand the significance of it, for the most part, because they think that they can overcome it, man. Right? They think that they can offset, right, or supersede the power of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, man. Right? But like I said, as thou was made sanctified, or as thou was sanctified or being made holy in us before them, right? So in their presence, right, the men of the Lord are being made holy. Be thou magnified among us. It's like, be thou magnified among them before us, and let them know thee as we have known thee, that there is no power but only thou, O Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Right? So this is what we're about to start seeing, right? Is the spirit that we feel, right? The earth is going to feel, man. Right? It says, show new signs and make other strange wonders. Glorify thy hand at thy right arm, right? That right arm being Yahweh Shai, that they may set forth thy wondrous works. Raise up indignation and pour out wrath. Take away the adversary and destroy the enemy. Right? And this is what we're praying the Lord for, man. Right? It says, sake or make the time short. Remember the covenant and let them declare thy wonderful works. Going back to those men, right? Going back to the point, right? And that going back to the title of the lesson, right? This great war, right, will never be forgotten. Neither the heroes who fight in it, man. Right? Because this is all the things that are going to be taking place during that time, man. Strange wonders, new signs, right? Wondrous works, right? The wrath and indignation of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right? And all the while, the men of the Lord, right, are going to be receiving that glory alongside Yahweh Shai, man, right? As he's coming to destroy this place, he's going to be lifting us up alongside him, man. Lord willing, we a part of that number, right? Let's go here. And then I'll close out. I don't want to make it too long. But it's a good movie, man. It's a lot of quotables in there. It's, even, as you, the movie Troy, what I'm speaking on. In the first scene, the young boy was talking about how pretty much the Thessalonian that he was about to fight, how do you say it? He said the Thessalonian he was fighting was the biggest man he had ever seen, and that he wouldn't want to fight him, right? But then Achilles said, that's why no one will remember your name, And that's why nobody is going to remember LeBron James or Michael Jordan or, whoever is, of something in this society, right? You name it, Barack Obama or fucking Jay-Z, Kendrick Lamar, whatever, celebrities, athletes, politicians, even people, right, in the day-to-day, right, your philanthropists and, things of that nature, man. Nobody's going to remember these people, right, because they didn't want to fight that fight, right? They didn't want to fight the good fight of faith, right? They didn't want to separate from this world, right? They didn't want to be sanctified or made holy in Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right? They saw, the power of Esau Edom that the Lord had given them, and they were in fear, right? But the men of the Lord don't fear Esau Edom because we fear the Lord, man, right? We know he's just the whipping stick, right? The rod of his indignation, But like the Brad Pitt's character Achilles said, right? That's why no one will remember your name, right? Because they didn't want to fight Goliath, so to speak, man, right? we're in the spirit of King David where he ran to Goliath, right? Let's get that real quick. What is it? No. 17. Just jumping to the point. Um, there we go. It's 1 Samuel 17, and just to get back to the point, right? Um, the young boy didn't want to go and fight, or he was afraid to fight uh, the Thessalonian in the movie. But Achilles said, "That's why no one will remember your name." And the spirit that we're coming in, right, is that we're willing to go and fight Goliath, right, so to speak, man. Esau is in that same stead as Goliath was back then, right? An overwhelming force, right, that the majority of people fear, right? But we don't fear because we have the Lord on our side, man, right? And this is a good, story to read through, right? But I just want to get to this point because this is the spirit, that the men of the Lord are in. It says, 1 Samuel 17 and verse 48, and it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine, right? So this is the spirit that the men of the Lord, are in, man, right? We're we're hasting for these times to come, man, because we want to see the Lord work. We trust that the Lord will work, right? We have no doubt, right, that Yahweh Shem Yahushua is going to fight these battles, man. That he's going to put the spirit on us to endure whatever it is that we have to face, right? That while we're in the midst of this war, right, he's going to, perform those miracles, man, right? That he's going to give men spiritual power, right? That he's going to give us, a way to escape, right, insurmountable odds, And that's the same spirit that David was in, man, right? Because he knew the power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, right? Verse 49, and David put his hand in his bag and took hence a stone and slang it and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth, right? But the point being, right, David hasted, right, toward Goliath, man, right? And that's the same stance that the men of the Lord have, man, right? Standing stiffly for Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, right? Knowing that, again, I keep bringing it back out, but that the war will never be forgotten, right? But neither the heroes who fight in it, man, right? Just quoting again that movie Troy, you know. So I'll read that second Esdras again real quick and then close out. Second Esdras chapter 2 and verse 47, right? So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of the Most High, whom they have confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord, man, right? The name Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, right? And the legacy that comes along with that, right? The works attached to it, the miracles attached to it, right? You know, the works attached to our forefathers, right? They came in that same stead. The prophecies, right, that are attached to it. Again, that Revelation 12 and 17, you know, Revelation 19 and 10, you know. So this fight, this battle, you know, that we're going into and going through as we speak, right, will always be remembered, right? And the names, Lord willing, we endure unto the end, right, will be remembered as well. You know, so Lord willing, those edifying through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. I want to close by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, Bashem Akarkadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. Kwame Yasharallah and the Bible Ball. Shalom.